time to strap in and get ready. The leaders in AFL SuperCoach are incoming, helping you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight AFL Show with your hosts, Big Horse and Skitty.
Hello and welcome to another show here on the Insight Fantasy Sports Network. I am your host, The Horse, and with me is another man who's been working alongside me for this pre-season. Hurl's last year, top 305 finish for you. You're chomping at the bit to get started, mate.
I am, and the real stuff's not that far away. We're into the proper practice games now. Can't wait. And I think everyone's in the same boat. We've been hanging out for footy, and it's finally here.
For sure, mate. Before we get started with your team, how did you enjoy last night's game between Essendon and Geelong?
Oh, I thought it was a really good game of footy. I mean, we're both Essendon and Nutties, so obviously there was some great positives out of the game. How good's Kako? My God.
Oh, mate.
Some great stuff. That's it. Some great stuff as an Essendon fan, but let's not get too carried away. We're undefeated in February, but we've still got a long way to go. It's August that matters. But I think the footy was good. I think the standard was quite good. Geelong tried some things. Essendon tried some things. So hopefully the other 8 games over the next week are equally as entertaining. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's important for the viewers at home not to get too carried away by the result, but rather who's playing where, players-wise, structure-wise, who's doing what, kick-outs from a Supercoach point of view, Kako playing that high half-forward role, which was really pleasing for me to see. If he was stuck deep, then that would have been an easy fade for me, but the fact that he's playing some time up around the middle of the ground makes it easier to pick him. But moving forward, it's about just structures and seeing your players play in certain positions and not to get too carried away with the score, because after half time in most of these games, coaches are going to start changing people around, changing strategies, changing structures, maybe going from a chip kick possession type of game to a fast type of game style. This is what preseason's about. So it's important to not, take in everything that's going on and take it on face value. You've got to remember that coaches are going to be hiding game plans from the opposition for round 1. So we both encourage people at home to keep that in mind. But before we kick off your team tonight, Hurley, like, subscribe, and click the bell. We call it being the triple banger. But also, if you listen to us on audio, give us a 5-star review. Helps with the algorithm and helps get us out into the Supercoach world so more people can listen to us at home. Hurls, let's get stuck into it, mate. Your backline. And D1. That's important because a lot of teams have Sheasel, but yours is the first time I've seen with one D Zorko at D1.
Yeah, I must say I have flip-flopped between Sheasel and Zorko, and fading Sheasel scares the crap out of me. But I just love Zorko's run. I love the first sort of 7 or 8 weeks for Brisbane. And I think he is going to be, far lower ownership percentage, and it's a risk that I think I'm going to take, and just hope that Sheasel doesn't go 150, and then I'll be scrambling to see what's going on. But it is a bit of a risk, but I think Zorko can go off early.
Yeah, I like it. Like you brought up earlier, that he's got a very favourable matchup or matchups, plural, in the first 7 rounds, where he plays a lot of teams that sort of play that back of in cricket terms, back of a length. So further back towards their own goals zones, which means Brisbane's D50 is going to be quite open, which opens up the chip kick, the possession play. He gets involved in that, but he also gets involved in those forward furees as well, doesn't he? Brisbane look to get the ball to him on the run and look for him to deliver the ball inside 50. So when you're looking for an absolute point of difference, Zorko at D1, as long as you can cover your buys, is a really nice pick there, mate.
Yeah.
Nick Martin at D2. I reckon this is the first time I've seen Nick Martin in a team. I'm interested to hear your thoughts around Nick Martin at D2.
He's a late entry. I've been wanting to put him in all preseason, and I just haven't had the balls to do it. And then watching the role last night, where he's basically playing half forward and go wherever the hell you like. I love it. He's going to be around the ball. He dropped behind the ball when Essendon needed him back there. But he's importantly, and this is where I think this could be a play, he's starting nearly every centre bounce on the forward flank if he's not in the guts. And I think that'll, if that holds for the first 6 weeks, which I have no reason to think it won't, there could be a chance he becomes our F1 or F2. And so I think he's someone I love to watch. I think here's another risk. You've got to take some risks. I think I'm taking about 3 or 4 of them throughout my team, and this is one that at the moment I really, really enjoy.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. If you play safe in SuperCoach, expect to finish 3, 4, 5,000th. You go with the crew, you go with the crowd. But in order to be at the pointy end, you've got to take some risks, don't you?
Yeah.
Educated risks.
Educated ones, you're right. And which play, and I think what's helping me take this risk is I don't love the other premium defenders, to be, if I'm really honest. Mm-hmm. All the ones that I love have, and you'll notice Zorko has around 3 by, Martin has around 4 by. All of the primo defenders that I like have buys. I really like Whitfield too. We can't have all of them. Mm-hmm. And so, I think Martin's going to be one that I want to hold true to. Let's see how we go as the season approaches. But yeah, at the moment he's there.
Nozay Wanganeen-Malera at D3. So you've gone the 3 primo structure across the top there in your defence.
Yeah,
he looks like primed for a breakout year, doesn't he?
He does. And again, this was a change after yesterday's game because I had another mid-pricer in here. I had SDK at D4, Perryman at D3. And I just wasn't impressed with SDK at all and don't trust him. So I found the money elsewhere to just go SDK up to Wanganeen-Miller. I really think he's going to play a little higher, I feel. So while, yes, he's going to get the seagull stuff around the back line, they're going to want him around the middle, kicking inside 50 as well. So I think that's going to be a good thing for maybe getting the 5 extra points he needs to be a really good pick. Like if he stays last year's average, it's going to be an okay pick. If he can bump up 5 points, it'll be a really good pick. So let's see if he can do that.
I think with the natural increase in ball that he's going to get, Sinclair, I think, will be back round 1 anyway. Yeah. But hitting 22 years of age, his 4th year in the AFL, there's that natural progression with players where he's likely to take that next step now. And I think with the way that St Kilda structure their ball, they're very chip kick, similar to what Richmond played against West Coast last week. They were very possession heavy across their back half. Yeah. St Kilda do the same. And Nozay Wanganeen-Malera is the man who's going to structure up a lot of their ball use coming out of their D50. So I love that. Just one on SDK last night. He had 15 touches, 16 hitouts for 59 SuperCoach points. Yeah. We know that Essendon are the known ruck killers. But even at that, ball use wasn't great. He looked, dare I say, a little bit soft for contact in the middle as well.
Yeah. I think if you pick SDK, you're picking him for cash gen because he's, you're hoping that he bumps up his 150 pretty quickly. I just worry that any big ruckman, and Draper monstered him, any big-bodied ruckman is going to monster him. And I just worry that if you get a 50 or a 60 sprinkled in with a couple of hundreds, it's going to defeat the purpose of why you're picking him. It's going to slow that cash gen down. And so I don't trust it. And I don't trust Chris Scott to stay with him in there either, to be honest.
If you are picking him, you're picking him to be a keeper, aren't you? And at 360K and what we saw last night, there's just too many question marks.
Yeah, I don't think he's a keeper. So, yeah, agree.
Yeah. Harry Perriman's interesting. So for tonight's game, this will be airing while the game's on. He's been listed to start at half back alongside Dan Houston. I don't think that's going to happen. We saw with Essendon's team release and the way they structured up to start the game, Zardes was named on the bench and Jade Gresham was named in the middle, and we saw that Zardes started in the middle. So I fully anticipate that Perriman will go straight into the middle and play alongside the likes of Crisp, Nick Dacos, Ed Allen, these sorts of players. He's a tackling machine, uses the ball well. We've seen in the past when he gets over 50% CBAs, he averages nearly 100 SuperCoach points at approximately 100 to 120K underpriced at the moment, and a potential keeper at the back end of the year if he keeps his role. This is a really nice pick, as long as you can make it work for buyers.
Yeah, I'm a natural pessimist when it comes to predictions, and I'm not getting too carried away. I'm going to say 95 is what I'm sort of budgeting for out of Perryman. If he can go 100, happy days, right? It's even, I'll keep him longer. He's a stepping stone pick for me, and the way I'm going to use him, unless he becomes viable as a keeper, let's not shelve that completely. But if he's not, I think 6, 7, 8 weeks in, he'll become someone like a Whitfield, and I'm just going to hope that either say Sheasel or Whitfield can drop their 50 or 60 grand. Hopefully they have one poor game from my perspective, and Perryman can pick up 60, 70 grand in that 7 weeks. It then becomes a 50,000 upgrade rather than a 150,000 upgrade. And that's where I'll make that pick work. So that's my plan with Perryman.
Awesome. Then we see Pryor, Allen, Reid, and Trainer as your defenders. Still a lot of water to go under the bridge when we're talking about rookies. But Jackson Pryor looked pretty good last night. We know that they didn't have Mason Redman either, but in that intercepting role, locking down the third tall, he did look all right.
He looked okay. I think I read a stat somewhere that he was something around the 65 mark SuperCoach points.
73, I think it was, mate.
73, was it? Yeah. So I don't trust any of the defensive rookies, I'll be really honest. So what I've tried to do here is put Pryor and Allen in, who are a little bit higher than basement price, so that then if we see some over the next 5 or 6 days that look like they're viable at the basement price, going down to them is easy and it works, rather than having to find cash to go up to them. And I was really impressed with Zach Reid last night. So while I've been telling everyone who'll listen he's just a D8 lock, I don't think it'd be beyond the realms of possibility we could field him every now and then.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's not many people in the AFL that are 6'7" and use the ball as well as he does, as long as he can stay injury free.
Yeah.
You're right, though. Pryor, 69 SuperCoach points last night. Zach Reid, 73 SuperCoach points. And we know about Bo Allen. Luke Trainer, he's sort of going under the radar a little bit. Out of the Richmond camp, they anticipate that this kid's going to play a lot of footy this year. He's been one of their better performed rookies on the track throughout the preseason, and really looking forward to seeing how he goes tonight.
Yeah, agree. He's if he can get a game for us, that'd be gold. I was a big advocate of the Caleb Smith pick, but he's not in the squad. So I've just pivoted a bit to Trainer, again, subject to being a green dot in round 1.
100%. Well, as you move into your midfield, mate, the SuperCoach World Cup is back. So if you think you've got what it takes to verse the very best in SuperCoach in NRL, AFL, BBL, and NBL, then this is for you. It'll cost you $25 to enter, but if you're like Mitch from Twitch at Flinch, you'll win almost $1,000 in prizes, but also be known as the best SuperCoach player in the world. If you think you've got what it takes to beat us, click the link and join down below. Bont at M1.
He's back.
For people that are scaring him, it's a scary fade, isn't it?
It is. It's funny. I'm as you can see by my backline, I like taking a couple of risks in my team. Every time I take Bont out, I shit myself. And I put him back pretty quickly. So yeah, he's back in there, and I think the decision was made pretty easily for me because I've always said all along I'm going to start 2 of Bont, Butters, Sarong. That was my plan from the start, and with Butters now not being in for round 1 with a bit of an injury, it means that Bont and Sarong become the 2 primos for me to lead my midfield.
I'm glad you brought up Sarong. So there's about 30K difference between Sarong and Brayshaw, and for those that are in our Patreon, we'll discuss that later. There was a very interesting Sarong v Brayshaw player versus player analysis that was done by our very own Insight Doctor. Do you think that you're getting 30K worth of value out of Sarong, or could it be easily, if you need to find more cash, a downgrade into Brayshaw?
You certainly could. I did have Brayshaw a fair bit of the preseason as well, and I've been on record saying I wouldn't discourage anyone from starting both. I think they're both great picks.
Yeah, for sure.
I just think Sarong, for me, while he does have some tag risk, acknowledge that, absolutely. the opposition tagger tends to go to him more than anyone else in that midfield. I think he also has the best ceiling. I think he can pump out the really big scores, and if last year's any indication, I think when you got best 18 early, those guys who have high ceilings are really worth their weight in gold. So that's why I went Sarong. But it's a toss of the coin a little bit, to be completely honest.
It absolutely is. Will Day, he looks prime for a big year at Hawthorn. Round 4 bye. Looks like you structured the team pretty nicely so far that it's not going to affect your best 23, or it will, but you might not lose too many points there. He could very well be a keeper if he lives up to expectations.
Yeah, I'm not one to budget for my mid prices to be keepers, but I think if any are, it's going to be the next two blokes, Day and Oliver. If any of these sort of 400 to 500k blokes are the ones who will take that step, I think these are the two that I trust the most. I think Will Day is going to play wherever, a little bit like the Nick Martin story from earlier. He's going to have some centre bounces. He's going to start on a half-forward flank occasionally and roll up to where the footy is. He might even get deployed, loose in defence if the game situation needs it. I just love the class that this bloke brings. And for me, the only risk here is his injury risk. He hasn't really had a full season over the last couple, so there is that over his head. But I'm not one to necessarily worry so much about the injury risk that much. I mean, I started Yo last year and it worked for me. I think with 40 trades, you're always going to have some injuries, and it might not even be the blokes who are you sort of are expecting. So if he gets injured, I'll move off him. That's okay.
100%. And for those that played SuperCoach 5-10 years ago, we only had 24 trades for the year.
Yeah.
So 40 trades is more than enough. James Peatling. So there's some question marks around the role that Peatling will play at Adelaide and the amount of cattle that they've got that can go through the midfield. For me, at that price, it's very hard to ignore, isn't it?
Yeah. He's not one that I'm worried about, to be honest. Even when he wasn't in the centre bounces in that trial game the other day, he's still got plenty of the footy. Half forwards rolling up around to the contest, still score. And it's not like he's getting if he was getting no CBAs, all right, I'll start to think, all right, this is an issue. But he still played, nearly the full third quarter, I think it was, in that game as a permanent CBA mid. So he doesn't scare me off. And he's the perfect price to help make some of the rest of the team work. So he's in my team, and I don't think that'll change unless he's injured or something really is alarming in the next game.
100%. So we see with him, and I do want to bring it up, Hurls, that there's stats and data around percentages, around CBAs and what have you. But something that does get lost in translation is if he's playing that high half forward, which your Nick Martins and your Will Days are likely to do this year, they're going to roll up and be around stoppage anyway.
Yeah.
These numbers aren't included in CBA percentages. So when you're looking at someone like James Peatling, he might be resting on a half forward flank. But once the ball breaks from centre and it's on a wing or a half-forward flank, I bet you your bottom dollar he's going to be the first one in and under. He's going to be the one doing the hard work. He's going to get contested possessions. And therefore, the numbers are a little bit skewed with Peatling and playing that half-forward. He is going to get CBAs, but he is going to spend a lot of time at the contest, isn't he?
It's a great call. I think for anyone out there who sort of wants to get a little bit more in depth around this kind of stuff, as the season starts and we start getting some great data, and if you use DFS Australia, Mortz does a great job. He's got heat maps of where players get the footy. I think looking at the CBA number and then the heat map in correlation to each other is a good one, because they might not necessarily have the high CBA, but if all the possession's still around the middle of the field, they're likely rolling up to those stoppages. So I'll watch that as the season goes on, but I'm not worried about it at this stage.
Your rookies that you've got on field there, I think they'll be in a lot of teams there. Sardis last night just looked phenomenal, didn't he? 31 touches. Nevitt with, I think he had 22 touches, looked pretty good in the midfield as the inside mid for Geelong. We know that Tanner Bruin's out for an undisclosed amount of time, so that looks like it's his spot to lose now. And Harvey Langford, my God, hit that left boot. It's just all polish, isn't it? And he's built like a brick shithouse for a rookie too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and you can see with my first four rookie priced here, I've gone for blokes that I think, for a start, they're not basement price again, just in case I need to pivot. There's flexibility there, but they're also blokes I think that are going to be in and around the footy the most. And that's hard to predict for some of your first yearers, which is why I really love Sardis and Nevitt being amongst the four, because they've been in the system a few years. So they're much more likely to stay around the footy for longer, maybe a little bit less sub-risk than Langford and Ashcroft might have. But yeah, I think that's the rationale there.
Yeah. Ashcroft as well. He's got that little injury tag next to his name. As we speak, we know of nothing that's really gone on with Levi Ashcroft. That may come out in the coming days if there is anything. But when you're being spoken about in the ilk that he is, and that he is going to be better than his brother Will, you know that there's a special talent there. And Brisbane have come out and said openly that they're looking at making a spot for Levi in their team, in their best 23 to start the year. Whether that's the sub or not, I'm not sure. But high praise for the kid, isn't there?
Yeah, I agree. And he was the late change for me when Jagger went down, unfortunately, last week. So I had Jagger rather than Ashcroft, but because of a little bit of a sub risk that I think might be there. But he's the next best after that. So he's in now.
For sure. And then we see Cody Angove. He's really impressed at GWS this preseason as well, and looks likely to start round one as per the coach. Kingsley's come out and said that he's ticked all the right boxes. He's doing everything right. He does the 1% as well. Nice little cheap primo DPP to have on our benches, or you could play him forward if he does kick off to a good start. And also Henderson as our bottom priced rookie that looks likely to start round one for the Ds. Before we kick off into your rucks, mate, we're going to listen to this American guy who loves talking about our Patreon.
Want to take your SuperCoach game to the next level? Inside Fantasy Sports are bringing you exclusive content all year round, such as weekly expert Q&As, team, trade, and captaincy advice, statistical deep dives, priority podcast questions, and tons more. So what are you waiting for? Get full access to the experts. Go to patreon.com/Insight Fantasy Sports and subscribe to Insight Unlimited today.
Does a great job, our man from the States. But when we're talking about articles and what have you inside the Patreon, you've done up a ripper article, Hurls, on planning and structures that has been very popular in our SuperCoach community. So if you're interested in reading about this, getting certain analysis, data, time in certain positions, Deadly's done a heap of work with matrices inside of our Patreon. It'll cost you a cup of coffee per month to read these and much, much more. Let's get stuck into your rucks. You've gone the big dog at R1 and someone who is at 1% owned at R2. Talk me through it, mate.
Yeah, so I love owning Max Gawn. I have for years. Last year, everyone got scared off early and he went massive, and it really was one of the reasons I had a really good year. So I've plonked him in there at R1. And then I've gone Nank at R2. And I'll give you a little bit of the rationale for my picks here. And you mentioned the buy planning article that I wrote. I'm really big on attacking the mid-season buys with a bit of aggression. And round 12 is the hardest buy, as we all know, this year. And I really focus in on minimising my risk in round 12, even over some of the early buys. I think I can cover those ones. It's round 12 that I'm most nervous about. Hence, my two ruckmen here have a buy in round 13 and round 14. So my plan with Nank is if he can get me 105, 110 through to round 12, and then in round 13, I flip him to Sherry after he comes off his buy and has a gold run from round 13 onwards, that would be perfect. These long range plans rarely hold, but that's the thinking for that start and why I've picked those two.
It's important to have that foresight to get that buyer planning sorted, isn't it? So then you're not short in any one round. I know round 12 is 12 weeks away, and it's easy for us to say at home, oh, it's all right. Once round 12 comes in, I'll just trade people in that aren't playing that round. But in order to get you through to that without losing any points, that's what's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think this is where, like, Sherry is a great pick. Don't don't not pick him if you love him. De Koning is probably going to be a great pick now that Pitnet, or Shitnet as I call him, is going to be gone. So I'm not trying to talk people out of those picks. They're really good picks. I just have a little plan around these two rucks that I'm going to implement and see how it goes. So that's just my way of playing SuperCoach.
Sure. And we see Harry Boyd there at R3. We've seen people that have tinkered with Harry Boyd at R2, Harry Boyd in the flex. A lot of people have him at R3 as well. Do you think this is the safe play? Just having a look at R3 to see how he goes alongside Marshall. We see from the updates we've received today that Marshall is not going to play in the Saints' final practice match before they start their season in round 1. So we're going to see Harry Boyd by himself, and he's probably going to score 80 to 90 SuperCoach points. So to the human eye, that's like, fuck yeah, we're going to score well, and we're going to save potentially 500K by playing Harry Boyd. But that's without Rowan Marshall. Rowan Marshall's been the first choice ruckman at St Kilda for a number of years. We know that he's going to push forward. We know that he's not going to have the match fitness to go right from the start. So Harry Boyd is going to have some time in the middle. But when you're setting expectations for what he could potentially score, Hurls, would you say be a 75-80 per game?
Yeah.
If that.
This is a really interesting one. Like he looks a SuperCoach ready player, right? Mm-hmm. Even with Marshall in, he may score 90s and stuff. I have no doubt about that. I think that the trick is with the way I think about SuperCoach, I go the conservative start team approach from the rookies I pick, where I'm paying more cash, because then I've got flexibility in my first 3 weeks of trades. If Boyd's getting, if Marshall plays round 1 and with Boyd, and Boyd gets 100 and 100, let's say, it's so much easier to say, you know what, here's an opportunity for me now to go Boyd into flex, Reedy into R3, and spend that cash on getting Sheasel because I stuffed up by not picking him. But if you start that way, reversing it's so much harder, and you feel like you're chasing your tail. So I prefer to go, if that looks like an opportunity in round 3, I'll take it then, rather than take it now and then look like I have to scramble. That's just
For sure. There's Hurls' rucks, ladies and gentlemen. We'll scroll through to the forward line because there is going to be some really nice players in here. Horn Francis at F1 Hurls. So since the news of the Butters knee injury and that he's going to miss round 1, does that shoot Pickles or Horn Francis even more into relevance now?
Yeah, it's something that he's looked fantastic in the 2 games we've seen him so far. And without Butters in there in round 1, and then who knows what happens from then, it certainly means any plans of playing deep forward as a bit of a forward line player are probably shelved. The other thing I will say, because Port Adelaide in their one, it's just a trial game, but in that one game, I think their forward mix is looking different this year, where they've got Lukosius down there. They've got a few different kind of looks at it. It looks a little bit more like Horn Francis probably can be more of a 70 to 75% CBA mid and then rest forward, rather than what I was maybe thinking at the start of preseason, that maybe 50-50, which is where I wasn't really keen on him. But at a 65 to 75% CBA player, I think he's safe as houses.
I think you're right. Yeah. Jack McRae there at F2. No-brainer there. If he's the 1-2 punch with Jack Steele, he's been a SuperCoach pick in the past. You brought up last night in our episode with Skits Fits. If you haven't checked that out, go back and watch that. That's a cracker of an episode. He's been the top price SuperCoach player in years gone by and looks to have that same role back at St Kilda.
Yeah. Lock him in until proven otherwise. I think I've been one of those guys that has been burnt by McRae 2 years running. And I think one of the things that is really important in SuperCoach is to not have complete rigidity in your thinking because someone burnt you last year, they're going to burn you again. It's a new year. He's got a new role. He's at a new club. Trust what you see. And then if he burns you again, then you can swear and curse and carry on anyway. So that's all good.
Unreal. Riley Sanders at R3. F3. He's definitely not a ruckman. He's a forward.
Nice. Well, Bevo's his coach.
Yeah, Bevo.
Maybe he'll make him ruckman.
Hurls, Bevo can't fuck him over again, can he?
I don't think so. I think the beauty with Sanders, for mine, I was already interested. And when Treloar is out for a long period of time and the question marks over Libba's concussion, unfortunately, he has to be in there for sort of key mids, and that's good enough for me at 339 for a forward. We don't need him to go 110. It's not a midfielder you're picking that you need to go at that rate. If he's going at 90s, I'm comfortable.
Yep, for sure. Caleb Daniels, another one. Just lock him in, throw away the keys. He's got the role. He'll be fantastic. We don't really need to talk about him. But the Corona, Hugo Garcia at F5. He looked really lively against Carlton, didn't he?
He did. I was late to the party on him. I've seen a few people, with him in their really early team picker squads, and I was looking at it go, really? He sort of didn't impress me that much last year when he came in. But what has happened since is you can see that, Philip, who went down, who was probably going to get 60 to 65% CBAs, I don't think they can trust Windhager every week. They might put him into tag occasionally, but they don't have a very deep midfield, in my view. So if he's in the CBAs and tackling like he does, and he can be that sort of, he's only 245k, so you don't need him to be 100 again. If he can be your 75 to 80s regularly, I trust that far more than trying to predict some rookie who might get subbed and stuff like that. So he's in there pending Ross Lyon doing the right thing.
Elijah Hewitt, we know he started in the B team last week for West Coast. It's been stated recently that he was the captain of the B team and that Mini just wanted him to get as much midfield time as he could. I still think he plays round one.
Agree. I think he does. There's some sub risk with all of your cheapies, right? But I think he plays for sure. I'm not worried so much about that last sort of the intra clubs. Let's see what happens now when they play their pracky this week.
For sure. At F7, build the man a statue. Isaac Kako. My God, he looked exciting last night.
He was, and the commentator started getting carried away, which does shit me a little bit. But it's just every time the ball came in his area, it wasn't even going to him. It was just in his area. The pressure he was applying was just electric. I loved watching it. I'm not getting too excited from a SuperCoach point of view that he's going to score you too much. He's going to have some weeks where he kicks 4, like in the pracky yesterday, where he'll get his 90, and he'll have some weeks where he gets 50s as well. That's just the nature of a small forward in SuperCoach. But he's definitely someone you can put into your forward line though.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've just received a text that Brodie Grundy has gone down with a knee injury and he's off for scans. So that may pave the way for someone like Peter Laddams, even if you're looking at going someone cheaper. We're going to have to keep our eye on that, ladies and gentlemen. That is huge news coming out of the Sydney Swans. Joe Berry at F8, mate, discuss.
Yeah, similar to Kako. I think they're a different kind of player. In juniors, I think Berry got a bit higher up the field and was that last kick inside 50 type small forward, whereas Kako did his work in the juniors at least more inside 50. Although, as you mentioned earlier, Kako did roll up a little bit last night, which was good to see. I loved his disposal efficiency when I saw the Port Adelaide and Adelaide trial game the other day. He didn't get a lot of it like small forwards can tend to do, but when he got it, he hit a target. So that's all I was looking for. They look like they're going to play him. They look like he's got some job security. If he's going to play every week, I'd rather spend the extra 20K on him and the extra 30K on Kako than a 119K bloke that I don't trust to be in the team. So that's where I'm going. Again, if we get 119K bloke in the next week or two, maybe you can pivot down one of those two, but we'll see how we go.
Cash generation's key, isn't it? Even if you're spending an extra 20K and know that you're going to make 100 to 150K more than those lesser blokes, you're going to be better off in the end. Who have you got in the flex, mate?
This was something that after our last pod, I went to this bloke. No, it isn't. I had Chera in there the whole time, and I had to ditch him to fix my backline. He was my move this morning. And just for everyone at home, I really do like the Chera pick, so don't be guarded from picking him. I think he's a great one to pick as your midfield mid-pricer as well. But this morning I had to free up some cash, so I went Chera down to O'Driscoll to free up the cash to allow me to go an extra deep in the defence. So that's just where I rejigged some. I think O'Driscoll is someone that I don't necessarily think is 100% locked. If I can see that he's got job security on that wing and he's not going to be a sub-risk, then I like him. I think Freo used their wings. We saw with Sharp last year that they used their wings okay, and there will be points there for him. He could probably average somewhere in the 85 mark, which is okay for his price. But wing does worry me a little bit, but we'll see how that holds and whether there's a different rookie that goes into that spot or whether I do restructure again and go back up to Chera with some cash from somewhere else. Who knows?
For sure. Would you be able to zoom out, mate, so then we can get the overall team? So mind you, ladies and gentlemen, this is being recorded and it's at about 1 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon. So from the back line, we have Zorko, Nick Martin, Nazay Wanganeen Malera, Harry Perryman, Jackson Pryor, Bo Allen, with your bench being Zach Reed and Luke Traynor. In your mids, Bontempelli, Sarong, Will Day, Clayton Oliver, James Peatling, Elijah Zardes, Harvey Langford, Mitch Nevitt, Levi Ashcroft, Cody Angove, and Mr. Henderson from the Melbourne Footy Club. Maxi Gawn and Toby Nankervis, your two rucks with Boyd on your bench. Then Pickles, who is Horn Francis, McRae, the Colonel Sanders, Caleb Daniel, the Corona, Hugo Garcia, Elijah Hewitt, with Kako, build the man a statue, and Berry on the bench from Port Adelaide with O'Driscoll in your flex. You fairly happy with the way you're structuring up at the moment, mate?
Yeah, I think I'm okay structure-wise now. I spent some time tinkering with 54 different structures like most people do at this time of year, but I think now I'm at the stage where the tinkering I'm doing is, save cash in one spot to put it in another. So I think structurally I'm about where I want to be. The next week will be really telling. There'll be every practice game will show us some different things, and that might mean some of these guys get punted for others, who knows? But structurally, I think that's about where I'm going to land.
For sure. Hurls, where can the people find you?
Mainly Twitter, so X or whatever it's called, at SilverTop Hurls. You'll find me on there commenting on a lot of the games. I'll probably do a few of some notes for some of the games this week where I'm watching. So look out for those and just try to give people a bit of insight into some of the SuperCoach relevant players and how they're going in the pracky games. And come and say g'day. Send me a message. I'll reply to most people if you're not too hostile.
Mate, we're certainly loving you here on the Insight Fantasy Sports Network. You're giving the people at home that extra layer, I guess, to footy, not just from a SuperCoach point of view, but the way teams are structuring up, what players are doing on field, what to look out for, and sometimes to think outside the box, because playing safe overall is not going to get you anywhere. You've got to take educated risks, and we can see with your Nick Martin picks and the like that you've got risks there that could very well come off that are a little bit different to the norm. So good luck for the year, mate. I hope your team does well.
Second to you, is that what you hope? Yeah, no, I think we've got the top 5 spots. I think with a few of our patrons thrown in, we'll just dominate this year.
I hope so. But if you haven't yet, ladies and gentlemen, please hit like, subscribe, and the bell down below. We would appreciate that. But also, if you're listening to us on audio, give us a 5-star review. We'd love that as well. For tonight, this is Hurls on the horse, and we'll be back tomorrow with another team reveal. Who that is, you'll find out then. We'll catch you then.